I fell in love with music at an early age. My father was a pianist. He was German. He had taken piano lessons, and we had a piano in the house, an old upright that wasn't very good, but my father could make it sound good because of the way he played. And my mom was always bringing home records from the library, Broadway shows, classical music, opera, Harry Belafonte records. And we always played the radio in my house. And fortunately in New York, you got such a wide spectrum of different kinds of music listening to New York City radio. So I was exposed to it at an early age and fell in love with it. And I started taking piano lessons at an early age. My mom brought me to a teacher who lived down the street. The piano teacher that my mom took me to had a Steinway piano. It was a Steinway B, a Model B, grand. And it was so much better than the piano that we had in our house. I used to love to go to her house to play her piano, not because I liked taking lessons, because I just loved the sound of the piano that she had. It was set up in a studio, and the acoustics were fairly ambient. And that piano, I used to try to get it. Can we lift the lid up on the piano because I wanted it louder? And sometimes she would, and sometimes she wouldn't. But that was my first exposure to a Steinway piano. I was about 5 years old. I was fascinated with classical music for the first 16 years of my life. And I always refer to it as, that was the sweet girl next door. And then when I was a teenager, this rock and roll girl came along with fishnet stockings and smeared lipstick and smoking cigarettes, and she dragged me away from the girl next door. And we had a passionate affair for a good 40 years. And now I've rediscovered the girl next door. She looks really good these days. So I listen mostly to classical music now. I would refer to Beethoven as God. Everything he wrote was exactly right. I can't name all the Mozart 40 symphonies. I can name a couple of them, but I can tell you pretty much everything about the nine Beethoven symphonies. His quartets, his concertos, his sonatas, all of it is just, it's perfect. He always wrote exactly the right note. Now, how do you do that? And I've gotten copies of his original manuscripts when he was writing, and I saw in a lot of those manuscripts, he gouges out huge passages of music. He's, nope, I don't like that, I hate that, I don't want anybody to see that. You could tell he was writing in fits and starts. Mozart was like a talented athlete, born to it. Every stride was just graceful and beautiful. But Beethoven was very human, and I hear that in his music. And that's why I worship him. But I think I brought a lot of my classical aesthetic into writing rock and roll and pop music. You take a song like Uptown Girl. If you play the melody in the right hand and you add an Alberti bass in the left hand, and an Alberti bass is da 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 da. Now imagine the right hand. Da 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 dee da ba 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 ba. It's like a classical piece. The same with a piece like For the Longest Time. It's Mozartian. And there are some pieces I stole from Beethoven. Which song is it? A song called This Night. I actually gave him credit. I didn't give him any money, but I gave him a credit on the album. People say, oh, he stole from Beethoven. No, I didn't steal. I gave him credit, just didn't pay him. But there's a piece called This Night, which I lifted from the Pathétique. So there's a lot of that stuff in my music. I have a classical sensibility of chords and melody and dynamic. Because a lot of times in rock music, there's one level of volume and it never changes. And the chords don't change. I find myself sometimes yelling at an audience, change chords, will you? Some people are very happy to just plots on one chord. I like dynamics, I like differences, I like changes, I like variations. And you learn that in classical music, how to develop. Some days I'll wake up in the morning with a theme in my head, or a melody, or a chord progression, or something rhythmic, and I'll sit down at the piano and try to work out what that was in my head. Some days I just sit at the piano and say, okay, let's see what happens, allowing the music to move me. I'm not thinking about words. I'm not thinking about, the subject matter of the song. I'm waiting for the music to move me to want to finish a piece, to complete a piece. I still don't even read music to this day. I should. I should have stayed with that part of my lessons because it's a great tool to have in the toolbox. But I'm writing as, I guess, a naive artist. And sometimes I'll get an idea and I'll need to get to a piano immediately. There's a waltz on the instrumental album I did called Fantasies and Delusions. The waltz is Steinway, it's called Steinway Hall. This was in the old Steinway showroom on 57th Street in Manhattan. I was walking around in town. I said, I got this idea. I got to get to a piano. I got to write it right now. Went to Steinway Hall. I asked the people there, can I get to a piano? Can I play a piano right now? Okay, Mr. Joel. And they brought me in the back. And I was able to write this thing pretty much in one sitting by being able to play the Steinway. So I named it the Waltz Steinway Hall. Steinways, they're such well-built instruments that even if you're not coming up with the original stuff that you want to, you tend to linger at the piano and spend more time working on it because it sounds so good. Now, almost every piano is different. Every Steinway that I've ever played is different, but they're all good in different ways. Some of them have more top end. Some of them have a deeper bass. Some of them are more fluid to play. Some of them are more staccato to play. But they're all good in different ways. And I just know that when I'm playing a Steinway, I'm always going to enjoy what's coming out of that thing. And I'm not a really good piano player. I'm no Ashkenazi or Horowitz or Lang Lang. Lang Lang came to my house recently. He played the Steinway that's in my house, and he pronounced it a very good piano, which I was, okay, Lang Lang gave it, it's the seal of approval. You're always going to get a good sound out of a Steinway. It's something to do with the hand crafting that goes into it, like a Matisse or a Bugatti. It's one of a kind, but it's going to be good. I always wrote the songs I wrote for me. I wasn't thinking about an audience. I wasn't thinking about record sales. I wasn't thinking about radio play. I was thinking about what do I want to hear. And maybe I'm fortunate that other people wanted to hear the same stuff I did. But that's really what I was writing for. I was writing for my own enjoyment. I wanted to hear what I wrote. So I don't know how that translates into the kind of success that I've had. I've never been able to figure that out, but I don't know if I want to either. There's an alchemy, there's a sorcery, there's a wizardry to it that musicians do. And I think once you dissect it or post-mortem it, you can kill it. I'm still writing music to this day. I haven't done any recordings for a while because I'm kind of learning. It's a learning curve right now, and I don't know when or if I'll record again. I'm playing and writing instrumental music, and I want to make it work where I'm satisfied about it. The one instrumental album I put out, it did very well for a classical album. I think it was #1. I think we knocked out Yo-Yo Ma at a #1, which is, I'm sorry, Yo-Yo Ma. But I think I can be better. And so I'm continuing to try to, rise above. The end.